Everyone, welcome back to the NFA Review channel. We're going to have some fun today. This is a highly requested video. A couple weeks ago I did a review on why machine guns are so expensive, and you guys piped up and really wanted me to do a standalone video on the MP5, specifically this little guy right here, the MP5K PDW that we were discussing in the last video. So today we're going to try to get through the studio as quickly as possible so we can hit the range and send some rounds downrange so you guys don't get bored there at home. So today we're going to be shooting 3 different guns, but we're really going to kind of just cover one because it's kind of the same platform, give or take a little details here and there. So we have a MP5-N for Navy. We have a MP5 reverse stretch by Dakota Tactical, and then we have the MP5K PDW. So yeah, let's just get these 2 bad boys aside here. Put one on each side. Hopefully they're out of frame. Doesn't really matter. So this is going to be the boss for today's video. The cool, the trustworthy MP5K PDW. It definitely is a badass little gun. So like I said, we're going to kind of breeze through the studio here. Before we get started, I wanted to give a shout out to my patrons on Patreon. Congratulations, guys. Rex Selenium Suppressors just joined up and now offers you guys 20% off the entire suppressor lineup. Any suppressor you guys want to buy on the website, 20% off. So I believe that makes 17 discounts, and there are more coming, for sure. There are more coming. So that's pretty awesome. And there's another group buy coming from AB Suppressor, which is really rad. All the details, of course, are on patreon.com/NFA Review. Let's go ahead and get started, guys. So from the top, this little bad boy started development back in 1969 by HK. So this is based on the G3 platform that was based on the post-World War II STG-45. They actually didn't do anything with that prototype. The G3 came out, and then this was a result many years down the road, but it does have some G3 blood running through its veins. So to date, there's about 100 different variations of the MP5, and it's in use by over 40 nations. So it's been around since 1964, and from the looks of it, is definitely not going anywhere. And I mean, you guys can agree, in its current configuration here, it does look pretty damn modern and new, which is awesome for something that's been around for such a long time. Looking at the basic exterior, you're going to have a stock, on the full size it has more of a female cup that kind of goes over the rear of the receiver here. On the K, it's actually male. It inserts inside, and then the 2 pins hold it. So the stocks are not interchangeable between the full size and the K. You're always going to have a main receiver body. That is the serialized part. And then you'll have what's called a housing. And then inside the housing, you have the trigger pack. So this is a non-serialized part here. And then on the PDW, you have the K grip. And this one in particular has a Navy barrel installed. So it does have a 3-lug for a suppressor. And of course, that is threaded 1/2x28. All the MP5 clones that I have here in the studio are built the same way. On top, you'll have a drum type rear sight that you can turn, and you can change it to different aperture sizes depending on how accurate you need to be, what your distance is to the target. And of course, you have a round hooded front sight post there. So very, very HK, very, very classic look. And that's pretty much it, the main parts, stock, the grip housing, and then the receiver body. And then these, you know what, we'll just cover them real quick, and then we'll switch back to that guy there. So this is the MP5N. This has a different housing on it. We'll cover those in just a second. Here's an A2 fixed stock, super comfortable, highly, highly recommended. This one has the Dakota Tactical M-Lock rail, which is freaking awesome, and a Unity hot button, and then a Surefire M300 Scout on it. So very, very handy setup here, especially suppressed. I do like the traditional Surefire forearm look on these, but for some reason still to this day in 2021, Surefire won't change the design. All they got to do is slightly give some room here, so when you have that flashlight hanging below the 3-lug, it won't interfere with a suppressor. Why they won't add another 1/4 inch for some clearance is beyond me. It does look cool, but it's worthless to me because I can't run a suppressor on it, or at least the Omega 9K. So as you can see here, go ahead and throw the 3-lug on, or the attach via the 3-lug on the MP5. Plenty of clearance there. and you have a tack light for night use. And very, very comfortable. You can just grip the gun and your pointer finger just rests right on that hot button and you can actuate the light. Very, very cool setup. So that has a post-sample machine gun Sear in it. And then this is my Dakota Tactical SBR. This is not full auto, although you can use the other lower on it to convert it to full auto. So this is a 4-position pictogram housing on here, but as you can see, it does not go to full auto, and it will fire in semi-auto in the burst position, the semi position, and then of course safe it doesn't fire. So it might look like it runs full auto, but without the Sear and the other pack in it, it will not work. This has a B&T side folder stock on it with the reverse stretch. Basically, this is a Frankenstein gun. You have the front short K section of a K gun, but you have the full-length receiver section of the full-size MP5. What that does is it gives you a slower cyclic rate. The carrier has more room to move back and forth, and it takes longer to get to the rear and then load another round up into the chamber. So you have a slower rate of fire, it's more controllable, but it's still compact. So these are very, very popular. This one was made by Dakota Tactical. Very, very slick setup. This has his K M-lock rail on it with a little grip on it, zero Bravo hand stop, and an Enforce light on it. Pretty trick little setup. Now, back to the Mamma Jamma here. The MP5K PDW, my holy grail gun, a dream gun of mine. It's hard to believe that I finally was able to buy one of these. So let's go ahead and show you how to take it apart, and we'll kind of get to the nitty gritty here so we can hit that range. So on all the MP5s you just saw, there are 2 rear takedown pins, and then there's going to be another one for the front handguard. Okay, so to push them out, you can do it by hand. Pull the pin out. Sometimes I use the pin to help push the other one out and then just pull it back through. When you do this, make sure that the cocking handle is in the forward position so there's no spring tension, okay, on the recoil rod spring inside. Stock just falls right off. Housing follows, and then you can pull out the recoil assembly, the carrier, the bolt head, all that cool stuff. So and then you have just the receiver hollowed out here, stamped metal, welded together, finished beautifully, and very, very classic. Been around since the 60s. It's not going anywhere. So, elephant in the room, okay, the housings. So I mentioned in my review that I keep referencing why machine guns are so expensive, the difference between a post-sample Sear and a registered Sear. This gun in particular has a Fleming registered Sear in it. I paid $33,500 for just this housing with that Sear in it, already timed for that pack, which is a ridiculous amount of money. We should not have to pay it, and again, I explain all that in that other video, so make sure you check it out. I'll throw the link in the description below. Now, the main difference between this housing and the housing here on the A2 is this one came out way before the burst housing did, and instead of a burst section, this just has semi, safe, and full. I'm going to go ahead and butcher this in German. You see it says SEF. So the S, safe, semi, full. So S, I believe, is sicher, maybe. The E is Einzelführer, and the F for full auto is Führstopp. Pretty sure I butchered that, but that is what SEF stands for. So non-burst housing, burst housing. So again, I explained earlier, you have the housing here, and then you have the pack that goes in it, and then inside this pack you have a Sear. So basically how this operates is not very different from a semi-auto pack. You just have some other parts thrown in here that I'll show you some close-ups on, but specifically this Sear trip lever here in the front. So you have your ejector here, so when the bolt comes back, it hits this front section of the ejector goes up. As the casing's extracted from the chamber after firing, the back of the casing hits this, ejects it, and then your extractor on the bolt head that's under spring tension rips it out to the side of the gun, typically just like a handgun would work, but that ejector is pretty neat, spring operated. You have your hammer here. You have a 3-position wheel. It's a count wheel in here, so It's a 3-position count wheel. I'll show you a close-up here of it taken down. It's kind of hard to get that angle. I was definitely not going to field strip this thing all the way because I don't know how to put it back together perfectly, and that would suck. So basically what happens is when the carrier comes forward, the bottom of the carrier hits this trip lever, okay? And that trip lever pushes on the auto sear that has a hold of the hammer. So when it does that, it pushes it down. Take it off safe here. It pushes it down, and you can see there, it's getting caught right now because my finger wasn't holding it, but what it would do is it would release the hammer, and then the hammer would follow the carrier forward, and right when the chamber closed, it smacked the firing pin and fire again. So pretty neat. I'll show you on the screen here how you take it apart. You basically just rotate these ambidextrous takedown levers. There's a lever inside here you have to push down with your finger, and then you'll rotate these to the 12 o'clock position, and then as you can see, it just falls out. Okay, so once you have that ambidextrous selector out and that axle out, you can just pull the pack straight up out of the housing. This is just a hollow housing, not much to it, okay? And then inside here, I have my sear, which is right here at the bottom, and that's the part that grabs the base of the hammer that lets this trip actuate it later on in the firing sequence. Now, you're probably wondering how you're going to assemble this. It's not as easy and definitely not legal to just buy all these parts from, like, say, hkparts.com or another HK parts supplier and just throw them in your semi-auto gun and all of a sudden it's full auto. There's some things put into place to prevent that from happening, mainly on a normal MP5 housing. You have what's called a dual pin, okay? This is not, because on a semi-auto gun, before we, put this in it, convert it to full auto, they remove that, okay, per law. So you can't just take like a normal full auto housing from a part supplier and just slap it on your semi-auto gun and rock and roll. It doesn't work like that. You gotta jump through some hoops and do some things, and then it will work. So this is called a semi-auto shelf, and basically what they did is they just required you to use a modified housing. You have to put it on the shelf, rock it into place, and then as you can see here, there is a pin here. Okay, so it looks like it has a normal pin that a normal real MP5 would have, and that is called a clipped and pinned housing. You've probably heard that before. There's plenty of services out there. This one was sent to Bonoff Machine. He did a really great job. He's based here in Florida. And basically they take an actual normal housing, okay, that you would use on a normal from factory MP5, and they machine out some plastic here that needs to be removed and some metal on these ears, and then they basically glue a cut pin on there so it looks congruent when you use it later, okay? On your trigger pack, you'll see a little notch cut out here on the front of the pack. On a normal one, that notch isn't there. It's just a normal box. So that notch has to be relieved to fit in that pack and to clear that semi-auto shelf. Okay, so there's some steps you have to take. Furthermore, the sear and the hammer need to be timed inside this housing to work together, and there's some really competent gunsmiths out there that are qualified to work on these very complicated packs. This one was built and timed by Terry Dyer. He's very known in the industry. I haven't had any problems with it, as you'll see later at the range. So that's basically the pack. The sear itself is a little tiny piece of metal here, and I'll show you a close-up of how that sear trip actuates again, and pretty self-explanatory. There's a lot of other YouTube videos that go into way more detail on how this works. I'll go ahead and link them below in the description. You guys can check it out. So that covers the housing and the sear. Okay, let's touch briefly here on how it operates. So most of you out there are familiar with the AR-15, that's gas operated platform. And you've seen 9mm ARs, those are blowback operated. This functions on a roller delayed blowback, okay? So without getting too much detail here, because I know you guys want to see these things shoot, what basically happens is, and I'll show you some close-up shots here, these little rollers on the side fit into the trunnion on the barrel. Okay, that's inside here. It's kind of hard to show. It has two recesses on either side of the trunnion. So when this slams forward and goes home, these two rollers protrude and lock into those recesses, okay? And on the back of the recess, it's kind of angled, okay, to allow these rollers to be pushed inward into the bolt head when the gun's fired. So we covered the pack and everything, right? So let's say you pull the trigger on semi-auto mode. The hammer comes up, hits the back here. You'll see the firing pin on the back of the carrier, okay? Comes in through here, smacks that, comes out the front of the bolt head, hits the primer, bullet's going downrange. You have a lot of pressure buildup in the chamber and the barrel, obviously. A lot of pressure. And then that pressure pushes backwards on this bolt head, and when it does, these rollers push backward into the trunnion, okay, and it forces these rollers inward, and it allows everything to unlock and move rearward. And then you have the process of this coming back, sliding over that ejector you saw, okay, little seesaw here, right? Hits that pops up, hits the back of the casing, ejects it. This spring compresses, right? Goes all the way back, and then the spring sends the carrier back forward, strips a new round off the magazine. You can start the process over again. Now, the reason it's called delayed, let me take it apart here, is because you have a couple parts here. And I'll show you the one that causes it to be delayed. Okay, you have your bolt head, you have your firing pin, you have your carrier, your recoil spring, and then the star of the show is a locking piece. So those rollers are actuated by the curvature of the locking piece, okay? Well, not actuated, but that's how it's timed. The delay in roller delayed blowback comes from the angle, okay, which is adjustable on the locking piece. So this is a 100-degree locking piece. Okay, the higher the number, the less power is required to unlock everything, if that makes sense. So you have like an 80-degree locking piece up to, I think, 110 for this platform. So a 110 would require less energy to get everything moving. So basically what's happening is, as the forces are pushing backwards, these rollers squeeze in, and you can see it move in my hand. They squeeze in, and then it gives room for the rollers to go in. That little delay, right? And then it allows everything to unlock. So hopefully I've thrown some animations up here that kind of illustrate it a little better than how I'm explaining it here in the studio. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you're like me and you're a visual learner, hopefully these close-up shots here have been of some help to you guys. Again, you can see here on the bolt head, you have the little spring here that's applying tension on the extractor here. So that holds the casing and assists in injecting it, okay? Another fun fact, the inside of the chamber, okay, the area that the casing sits when you fire it is fluted. So if you've ever gone to the range and you've seen a pile of brass and it has these weird striations on the outside of the actual casing, then somebody was there having some fun before you showed up with an MP5, specifically if it was 9mm, 40, or 10mm, all calibers that the MP5 platform comes in. So the reason they flute it is because the chamber pressure is so high on this platform, the expansion of the brass is so tight against the walls of the chamber, they flute it to allow gas pressure to float between the brass casing and the chamber wall, and it helps float it out, and it helps that extractor tension on the casing not slip off. So it allows it to kind of float it out of the chamber. So pretty neat. Freaking Germans, they think of everything. So, all right guys, off camera I reassembled the ambidextrous burst housing here because it is a pain in the butt. I didn't want to take up too much of your time, but I want to show you a difference here from what I mentioned earlier. So on the reverse stretch, I have another 4-position housing, but it has a semi-auto pack in it, okay? The reason I have a 4-position, okay, safe semi 3-round burst in full, 4 positions. The reason I have a 4 position on that is because I can take the pack out of this one and put it in this one. You're probably wondering, why do I need to move them around? Why can't I just take this off and move it? Well, remember when we started, I mentioned the different stocks. Okay, some cap over the receiver and some are male and they fit in. Well, if we look at the housing here, you'll see an extension piece of steel that is molded into the housing that the K frame does not have. It's actually cut short. So these housings will not interchange. So you have to actually buy a different housing, which then you have to send the housing to bought off machine. They can clip and pin it here. Remember, they grind away some material, put on the pins that are cut there, glue them on so it looks congruent. And now you have a modified housing that will accept your modified and registered machine gun Sear. Another cool fun fact, once you have a machine gun Sear in your gun, the stock length, the barrel length requirements go out the window. Okay, so it doesn't need to be an SBR. You can just, as long as it has the Sear in it, you can use whatever length on there. You can use an actual stock instead of a brace. Very important though, if you take the Sear out, then you would need to downgrade to a brace. Okay, otherwise you have an illegal SBR. I know, it's stupid, but I don't make the laws. That is why on this one, it's actually an SBR as well. So when I do remove the machine gun Sear, I don't need to, screw around with a brace. I can throw an actual stock on it. So yeah, that covers that. So let's go ahead and reassemble this little guy. So reverse the process. You got your carrier, and then you got your locking piece with your spring-loaded firing pin here into the bolt head. Just throw it. Actually, what you got to do is throw the locking piece in first, set it at an angle with the notch relief cut facing up. Put your bolt head back in and then rotate it, and it snaps into place. That's it. Very, very simple, very easy to maintain gun, very simple to break down in the field. Then just slide the assembly back into your receiver, rotate your housing up, take your stock, line it over the top, and drop your 2 pins in. These can go in either direction, doesn't matter, however you want to run it. And you're good to go. It's fully assembled. And then you can do a function test. Okay, semi, trigger resets, pull it again. We'll put it into full auto, pull the trigger, let go. As you can see, the hammer followed it forward. Really simple operation before we hit the range, guys. I know you guys are eager to get out there. Very, very simple. They all operate the same. These do not have a last round bolt hold open. When you insert the magazines, very important you push it inward and then lock it back like an AK-47. It's not as pronounced, but you kind of just push it in and wiggle it back, and that way you know you set it, it's locked. This one has a paddle release. It also has a button release on the right side. Ambidextrous housing. What you would do, always, always, always load it with the bolt open. Otherwise, it's not going to seat properly. Put the mag in, rock it back, take your hand, palm out, okay? Slap it downward and forward, like that, okay? And that way you're clear of the front sight hood, and you do not want to ride it shut, because what will happen is you'll lose velocity here on the bolt, and it won't fully strip around off the magazine, or if it does, it won't seat it into the chamber properly. And those rollers, as you can see, you just heard them lock, those rollers won't, lock into the recesses of the trunnion. And when you go pull the trigger, it won't reach the firing pin, or the firing pin won't reach the back of the casing. It won't strike the primer, and you'll have nothing. Nothing will happen. You'll have to actually recock the whole gun and let go. So always, always, always slap that shit, yo. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and hit the range. I know we kind of really breezed through it, guys, on the history and the operation, and roller delayed and the burst housing and everything. I know we really touched base on it quickly, but you guys just want to see these things fire. Okay, so those of you out there that are really interested in buying a platform, building a clone, buying a Sear, dropping it in, if you have questions, please don't hesitate. Leave a comment in the comment section below, and I will take the time, and I will leave no stone unturned, and I will answer all your questions on this platform, okay? Hope you guys enjoyed this section so far. Let's go ahead and get to the fun part. Huge shout out to 2A Warehouse for their ammo contribution. They drop shipped 3,000 rounds of 124 grain 9mm for today's little fun extravaganza. So let's go ahead and load some mags, grab some guns, and hit the range.
Not bad.
All right, so that was the full-size MP5, 5 rounds with the 124 grain Igman from 15 yards, so 45 feet, freehand. Wasn't shooting very slow. I kind of walked it down and then kind of settled there. So I put it on the small aperture size on the diopter on the MP5 to try to get it a little bit more accurate, but I mean, for 15 yards out of a submachine gun, not bad. I will definitely take that.
All right, we're gonna shoot the reverse stretch now. Same ammo, same mag actually. We just moved it over. And I put a shoot and see target on there. 5 rounds. Ah. Damn it. Let's go take a look.
All right, so when I was shooting, my vision kind of blurred back and forth off the post and off the target, and I thought like that second or third shot was this. From 15 yards, it looked like a hit, so I was like, oh man, but really it was one of these. So yeah, it did, I mean, pretty much what the full size did. Let's go ahead and try the K PDW and see how it fares.
That trigger's way heavier. Interesting. Shooting low.
Still not a bad group.
No.
Okay, so just shot the MP5K PDW, and I wanted to note that the trigger was actually way heavier. It's pretty neat to shoot all the models in succession because I was able to, you know, differentiate between little nuances from gun to gun. And two things: the trigger is way heavier in the K, which I thought it was just normal MP5 weight, and it was shooting low. So I'll have to look on how to adjust the sights on that and fix that. But yeah, so that gun is shooting a little low. I'll have to remind that when taking any hostage shots. We should try that next.
Okay, let's test how the MP5K PDW does when rescuing a hostage. Got 2 cameras. I got one over my shoulder and this view here you guys are watching. And we're gonna see what happens when you try to counterattack a hostage taker with 3-round burst. Hope this goes good for you, hostage. Woo! Oh boy! Let's go ahead and take a closer look.
All right, 3-round burst with the hostage taker. I got one right here in his cheek, another in his forehead, and then the third shot went a little high. So the gun rode up just a little bit, but got the job done. Let's see how the Dakota Tactical reverse stretch and the full-size MP5 fare.
Now we're gonna run the hostage drill again, but again, this is a 4-position pictogram housing with a semi-auto pack in it. It will go to 3-round burst, but it will only shoot in semi-auto. It won't go to full, semi-auto only. This is the same housing I can use my Fleming Sear in. So let's just leave it on semi there. I just ran all the way back and forth to get my ear pro, so more realistic. I'm gonna try to do just 3 quick shots. Yeah.
All right, the Dakota Tactical looks like, woo, danger close to the hostage, but I'm gonna call that a win. And I believe this one here. So 1, 2, oh no. Hey, look, it's just a shoulder wound. You look cool, you have a cool story. That's out of your lungs, out of your artery areas. So listen, I saved your life, okay? Be thankful. But let's try the full size and see if I should use that instead.
All right, hostage got a little flesh wound in the collarbone there. Let's run the full size, but this time we're gonna put it in full auto only. Obviously this is a SEF lower, so I only have safe, semi, or full mode. And I'm just gonna try to do a controlled burst with my finger of full auto. So 3 to 4 rounds or so. Diopter set to the smallest aperture size, and we're gonna hope for the best for the hostage's sake. All right. Oh. Magazine was not seated all the way. So, while we're on that subject, when you're loading an MP5 magazine, you don't just put it in straight. You actually put it in and rock it in and back like an AK. But that was a kill shot, so he's still alive. See where any of those went? Okay, I'll take that. So we believe, I'll have to check the footage, but we believe this was shot 1, 2, 3, 4. So any innocent bystanders, I hope you got behind hard cover. But the hostage is still alive with a minor flesh wound. On 3, mag dump, center mass, okay? 1, 2, 3. Mine looks a little tighter. Mine looks a little tighter, I don't know. Let's go see. Let's check it out. All right, so we got Steve's. Steve was shooting suppressed full-size MP5 with 147 grain Freedom munitions, mag dump. Looks like we had a little left control here. This was all painted white prior to shooting, so you can see where all the shots went. Okay, and then I was shooting the steel unsuppressed with 124 grain. And tighter group. I wonder if it was the suppressor. I mean, it should, the suppressor should reduce recoil, but maybe just the cyclic rate of the MP5 lobbing back and forth. And when I say MP5, I mean the MP5N, the full size. That actually went opposite of what I thought was going to happen, but still a lot of rounds on targets at 45 feet. Not a gun I would want to contend with in a close quarters situation. Okay, so let me get this off here. We were just recording the close-up shots here. Wow. So 5 rounds with the 124 grain out of the full size. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I will absolutely take that at 50 yards. Wow. Okay, let's try the Dakota Tactical, see how it fares. I pulled that one, that was my bad. So I pulled the first shot. I think it went here. Okay, then I had another shot here, and then 1, 2, 3. So still, for a reverse stretch MP5 at 50 yards, shooting pretty fast with 124 grain ammo, I'll take it. Let's try the MP5K. Okay, the MP5K, I was having a hard time seeing, but we got 2 hits here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, yeah, I'll still take it. I mean, you're still hitting a, human silhouette at 50 yards with the MP5K. So, success in my eyes. All right, guys, I hope you thoroughly enjoyed today's video. It was a lot of fun out here to run all these MP5s. You can see Steve is still out there having some fun, throwing some rounds through. Sounds like the full size with a suppressor on it. So actually, I'm glad he just did that, because did you notice he was shooting the rubber dummy target and you didn't hear any annoying steel when shooting with a suppressor? So might have to get some more rubber dummy targets out here. I mean, it's an MP5, you gotta have fun. So today's video, you guys saw us shoot at 50 yards. You saw us shoot at 15 yards, so 45 feet. You saw us shoot full auto, 3-round burst, single fire. The MP5 is a pretty versatile platform, and that's the reason why. And that's the reason why it's a crowd favorite. So as you can see, Steve's out there having the time of his life until, you know, we ran out of ammo. Speaking of ammo, huge shout out to 2A Warehouse. They hooked us up with some ammo from Igman, so we got some 124 grain NATO out here. Big shout out to 2A Warehouse. They are a sponsor on my Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/NFA review, you can check out all the discounts under the gold tier, and they are one of them. I think we have like 17 discounts now. Rex Selenium suppressors, they're our most recent. They're giving 20% off their silencers on my Patreon, along with other companies' suppressors as well. So go check it out if you guys like saving money and buying guns, cans, and ammo. So hope you guys enjoyed today's video. It's kind of fun, kind of laid back. Just wanted to kind of run the gauntlet with the MP5K, the reverse stretch, and the full size classic, the Mamma Jamma, the MP5N. I really hope you guys enjoyed what we did out here. If this is something you enjoyed, leave us a comment below. Let us know what you want to see next for a side review, and I'll make sure we can get it done. Until next time, please click that like button. It does help the channel pop up in the suggested video links that you guys see on your homepage on YouTube, and we know that pisses off all the liberals, so that's something we definitely want to do. And of course, if you like what you saw, click the subscribe button, and I'll be here next week with a new video. See you next time.